Welcome to Barchart's weekly series of webinars designed to help you, the trader investor, to better understand a variety of trading concepts, along with the pages and tools that Barchart provides to support you in making a more informed investment decision. Today's subject, strength and direction for trend and momentum analysis. Just as a race car driver relies on his instrument panel of speedometer and tachometer to tell him the performance of his race car engine, so too can the trader investor rely on Barchart's proprietary strength and direction signal to help analyze the speed and momentum of their market trends. Hello, my name is John Rowland, and today we're going to look at what defines Barchart's strength and direction signal, how to read that instrument panel, and most importantly, how to navigate this race car we call markets. Today, always with me is my partner and our moderator, Gene Baker. Hello, Gene.
Hello, John. How are you?
Very well. You keeping warm in this polar vortex?
Oh yeah, we got hammered with snow here in Chicago over the weekend, but we're doing great over here. So all's well. How about by you?
Good, good. Well, a lot of rain in North Carolina, but it's not as cold as it's been in the Midwest. So, Gene, let me ask you something. Have you ever had the opportunity to drive a race car?
Drive a race car? No, I have not. Can't say that I have.
No, right?
No.
Knowing you, I think you're too young to remember cars that had stick shifts, probably, right? But
hey, I learned how to drive with the stick.
Oh, you're cool. Well, excellent. Then you will relate to some of the concepts that we're going to work with today. So my first car was a Toyota Celica Supra, which was a 5-speed transmission. And I remember being able to fly through the gears and popping the clutch and downshifting without using my brake and, relying on the speedometer and tachometer for how I would, rev through the gears. So I think what we're going to do today is, as we look at our strength and direction signals, I want folks to keep that image in their mind if they've had that opportunity to drive an old-fashioned stick shift, or even if you play video games like one of those NASCAR games. So let's keep that in mind. Now, just to remember that as far as our disclaimer that all trading is implied risk, and that today's webinar is for educational purposes only and should not be construed as an endorsement to purchase or sell any particular security. And that is important, that any undertaking as far as investing or trading, you should consult a financial advisor, and that you better understand your suitability or your ability to take on risk depending on your financial condition. Okay? All right. Let's go back to Barchart. All right. So let's get started. Let's just jump right into it. So here I am on Barchart's, not main page, but the stock page. And so where do we find this strength and direction signal, right? And we can find it in a lot of different places in Barchart. So first of all I have to do is click on any symbol, or any asset or any security, and over here under the technical section you can see where it says Barchart opinion, and I can click on that, and that's going to take me to this Barchart signal opinion based on strength and condition, right? Now, that's in a stock, right? I can do that in a stock, but we can do this in all asset classes. I can go to ETFs, popular ETFs, and here's the SPY, same thing. Click on the SPY, and I can go through Barchart's opinion and get to that page, or over here it says Barchart technical opinion. Again, the same thing. This is kind of going to give us a little snapshot of Barchart's technical opinion, but if I can click on see more, That again is going to take me to this page that has our strength and direction in. But again, that's just ETFs. Not only that, but I can go in my Forex and the same thing. I can look at Forex. So these are popular crosses, and I can go to Australian dollar, US dollar, for an example. And again, I can go through Barchart opinion, or I can go through this page right there as well, right? Futures, same thing. There's a lot of ways for me to go into futures. Again, I can click on a very specific future and have that option to go through Barchart opinion. Or notice though, futures, we do have something a little bit different. It says Barchart's trading guide. And if I click on that, this is going to go to a trading system that we have in Barchart that's based on some technical analysis, one very particular one. And notice here that it does give us our strength and our direction. So futures a little bit different from the other assets, right? But the other thing, even in my watch lists, right? Any of the watch lists that I have, or any of the popular watch lists that are on Barchart's page. Remember up here we have our main view, and if we drop that down, we have opportunities to look at different views. We can even have a custom view. But if I go under the technical view, right, here we see Barchart's opinion, right, about these, right? So the question you might be asking is, why, John, why are you showing me all these different ways that we can use a bar chart, or where we can find these directions? Well, the reason why is I'm showing you is because we at Barchart believe in this signal so much that it's part of our DNA, that only a few clicks away can you find this opinion signal. And so that's why I wanted to show you all these different ways to jump around to find that signal, okay? So let me go back to our Tesla here. And so what is this direction and strength signals? What is it telling me? Okay, so if I go into the help part here and I open that up, notice that it says here, it talks about, it looks at historical data across 13 different technical indicators. It takes in count the common interpretation of these 13 indicators, and it'll assign it a buy or a hold or a sell signal. So for example, when we're discussing moving averages, and you can see that here we have a lot of our technical indicators are moving averages. When we talk about a moving average, since the data is collected from past periods, let's say in an uptrending moving average, price tends to be above that moving average, hence a buy signal, right? The overall signal is an amalgamation of all 13 indicators, which is divided into different time frames. We have a short term, a medium term, and a longer term time frame. So if all 13 of my indicators are showing a buy signal, then my overall signal would be 100%. Right? Now, if I have a descending signal and a dissenting signal, that's going to change my overall rating by 8%. Now, going in order, we go 8%, 16, 24 in units of 8%, 40, 80, 88. But when we get to 96, 88, 96, when we jump to 100, it's only a 4% jump. So if we back off one signal from 100, it would be 96. If we back off 2 from 100, it would be 88. And that's what we're seeing here is in my signal here, we probably have of our 13, 11 are buys, and maybe 1 is a sell. Yes, okay, so that would be why we would back off on that. scenario. So the other thing I want you to take away from our signal is that when we look at how we derive the data for these technical indicators, is that in securities, it's active, needs to be active for 200 days, for futures, 100 days. And also, if you look at our longer term indicators, you see that there are 200 days. When we look at futures, let me go back to our signal. Barchart opinion. When we look at futures, you'll not only will you notice that our time frames are a little bit different for futures, right? 100 days being the longest, but also the actual indicators themselves are a little bit different in the futures section. Okay. Now, the other thing that I want you to start to understand is that as we categorize these, we have different stages of our signals, right? And again, here's our signal strength that says, past 200 days. Notice our overall opinion signal strength moves from minimum to maximum, and there's 7 different levels here. We'll call these like our gear shifts, right? These are the different speeds of our car, and maximum being the strongest during that period, right? Now, also, each individual signal, each one of our technical analysis signals will have a rating or a category, and you can see that of each of the 13 indicators also has a strength reading, and these go from weak to maximum as well. All right, so strength, right here it says strength is our long-term measurement, strength of our trends, right? How is our trend doing? So strength is our trend. That's what I want you to remember. But in terms of our race car, I want you to think about is that strength signal is going to be our speedometer, and how fast our market is moving, or the greater the angle of inclination, right? The steeper that chart starts to look, the greater the speed of our trend. All right, so let's go and look at crude oil. We see that our strength here is 100%, right? And if we look at our chart, right, we see that our car is moving forward, and it's moving forward in the last few weeks at a very rapid rate, right? A very strong speeding trend. Okay, now if I talk about my direction, again, I want you to think in terms of a race car, but direction is our signal of short-term measurement of our trend. What has our trend been doing in the last 3 days, right? What is its momentum? And in terms of our race car, this is our tachometer, right? This is our engine, is our trend revving, right? Is it really racing, or is it idling, right? Or like our race car, have we just shifted gears, right? Have we just changed? Our trend has slowed, shift gears, and now it's taking off. Again, you can see that we have 5 categories: weakness to strongness. So again, let's go back to our chart. Here's our crude oil, and one of the templates that I have already created that I've used many times in our presentations is our 9 and 18-day moving average. And let me get rid of the Bollinger Bands for a second here. And what we're seeing here is that our trend, right, is accelerating, our speed is going up, but also our engine, right, we're diverging, we're moving away farther and farther from our trend lines, right? And actually, you can really kind of see this shifting of gears in this chart here. If you notice the blue line here, every time price kind of stalled a little bit, right? We get a little acceleration, the trend's still strong. We pause, another acceleration, pause, another acceleration. This is our trend right? Gaining momentum. And this is how we're going to use this signal. We're going to look at when our momentum increases as we have these strengthening or greater trends as we move from first gear to second gear to third gear. Okay, until we get moving down the highway. Now, let's go back to Tesla here. And the other thing I wanted to talk to you about is, again, that concept of diversions, right? Notice it says here it compares the current diversions, right? And that's what they're talking about. The farther we move away from the line, the trend or the moving average, the greater that engine is revving, right? The speed in terms of our RPM is increasing. If the price retreats, right, if it moves back closer to our line, our indicator then is telling us that our engine speed, our RPMs, is falling, and this could be a change in momentum. Notice here on Tesla, our current direction is weakening. So what we would see is we will see a nice strong trend, but we can see over the last month, last week, and then yesterday, we can see that our direction, our engine is weakening. So our momentum is weakening. Matter of fact, if I look at a very specific moving average here at 20-day, it's actually showing me that it's turned to a sell signal. In other words, price has probably fallen below that trend, right? And sure enough, we can see, look at our trend line here, look at our price action. Yeah, our trend is still up, right? Our car is still going down the road, probably at a good pace, maybe not at top performance, but what's happened to our momentum? Our momentum has shifted. Our engine has stopped revving, right? And this would be a sign of a potential trend change based on this change in our momentum. Okay. One more thing that we need to talk about is a hold scenario, and that is another signal that we have as well. And again, hold is really where our engine is idling. Our trend is probably a sideways trend, and we're waiting to rev up our engine to gain momentum, either at an upside or a downside. And to put it in terms of our race car, we're waiting to put the car into first gear. All right. So let's do this. Okay, excuse me. All right. So I'm going to go to my watch list here. And I was looking at this morning. Okay, so here's Chevron, and this is one of the stocks that's in the news this morning. I don't know if Warren Buffett talked about how they added this to their portfolio. So it was up big today, right? But let's look at our technical opinion, right? What is going on in our car, right? Let's so to speak, right? So our overall signal is our current strength is good, right? It's 88. It's telling that of all those technical indicators, they're all going to be probably a buy, only one dissenting one, right? Our strength and direction, right? Look at, right? Here's our 20-day moving average. It tells us the strength of our 20-day moving average trend is soft, right? Maybe our trend is not very strong, but in just the last 3 days, we're at the strongest, right? So what's happening? Our trend has been kind of idling, but now our momentum is increasing. And if we go to that chart, right, we'll see that, again, the yellow line representing our trend, right? We've been in this kind of sideways motion, right? Now the engine is revving, right? We're putting our little foot on the gas, and we're going to pop that car into first gear, right? That was we moving from a weak to maybe soft. Now look at our 20 and 50-day indicator. Again, this one is telling us that we're not only is our strength weak, but also our direction is weak, right? This is a different indicator. our momentum, right, our overall momentum is increasing, but notice that our 20 and 50-day moving averages have flattened out. But what is happening now? We are starting to see them starting to change, right? They're starting to move to the positive. So this could be a stock that's about to take off as it moves from weak to soft to average to strengthening to strongest to maximum. All right. Okay. Let me go and give you another example. Let's go back to our currency pairs. And the one that I want to look at, whoops. Here we go. Where are we? Here it is. Euro US dollar. All right. So what is our technical opinion? Still a buy, but notice here that our Barchart technical opinion rating is only a 40% buy, right? Not a very strong trend. And that actually, it says it's the weakest of short-term outlooks, right? And if I look at my trend here, you can see that my trend is actually going down, right? That it's slowing, right? So this would be telling me that my race car's momentum, right, is downshifting maybe. And we can see that our strength, our trend is low. And not only that, but our current direction, our momentum is really weak, right? We've lost a lot of momentum in this. And notice that a lot of our signals that were buy signals or had been buy signals have now switched to sell or hold signals, okay? So if I go to that chart, and let's look at a little bit longer period of time so you can kind of see that, right? So we see this trend has been in an uptrend. You can see momentary shifts in momentum, right? And then accelerations of our trend. But now what we're seeing is that our trend, our momentum, and our trend have started to slow, or actually maybe even what we might be starting to see is the beginning of a new trend that's going to go in the opposite direction, all right? Okay. I want to go back to this Tesla page, but let's always go to our favorite Apple. Everybody loves to talk about Apple. As that's loading up, I do want to pause here to look at a couple questions. All right. So David Brook asks, I've wondered if have I personally back tested it to validate the use of the value of this indicator or any of the indicators. Yeah, David, we can go into the technical analysis page, and in there you can see how many times that indicator has been. So there is back data there for you to look at, and you can find which indicators maybe have a better personality with your stock or your futures market or your currency, and you can see how many times that signal has given you a buy or a sell signal, or just a buy signal or sell signal overall, and back test that trading signal. Let me just show you how to find that trading signals. There they are. Tell you how many different trades, how long the average trade is, and what was the profitability of that. So, David, great question in terms of back testing. Okay, so here's Apple, right? Again, let's look at our strength and direction, right? So our strength, our trend is, is average. It's just kind of telling us it's still moving forward, still kind of doing. But again, our direction here, our momentum has slowed, and you can see that here we've gone from 88, 96 down to 80. We are slowing down. Again, if I looked at my, for instance, my 20-day moving average, right? Again, there we see that the momentum has shifted in Apple. Now, it doesn't mean that our trend is over. We still haven't made a new low, right? An uptrend is a series of higher highs and higher lows. We've just made a recent new high. We are flirting with the near-term low, right? But it does tell us, if I was an Apple buyer, let me go back to my candlesticks. If I was thinking about purchasing Apple, I'd probably be a little patient here, right? Because my trend has slowed and my engine has dropped down. I would probably be looking for that recent test, that recent low. I would wait for price to come down there. And then what I still would need to see, I want to see my engine rev up, right? I want to see my direction change and see that direction signal move from weakness to strengthening, right? Moving into a positive, right? I will give away a little bit of price in terms to wait for confirmation in a momentum changing direction. In this case, I want to see my momentum shift back to the upside, okay? All right, let's go back to crude oil for a second. And under my bar chart, right? Again, a strengthening, right? Notice that, I'm looking at a couple of my short-term indicators. And here's my 20-day. One of my favorite signals I like to use this a lot in a lot of different markets. My strength, my trend is maximal. That means I'm really, we're at full engine capacity here, and my direction, my momentum is right. So we're in fifth gear and we're moving at 100 miles an hour according to these two trends. And if we look at our chart, again, you see that angle of inclination is accelerating, and so is price is deviating or moving away from our moving average. Okay. All right. Now, let's just go to another market in futures. And I know I'm kind of whipping through a lot of these examples, but I think it's kind of making sense. I think hopefully I'm giving you guys some good examples here. All right, so let's look at corn. I know we have a lot of folks use Barchart are in the ag business, right? And so here's my Barchart opinion, right? My overall opinion here, my strength of my trend is still good, but again, see, my overall opinion has dropped down to 56%. That means that some of my indicators have actually shifted from buys to either sells or hold. And here you can see there's a lot of holds. Here's 3 different holds in my signal. Now, what's going on my momentum, my current direction? It's strengthening, right? So what's this telling us? That corn is still in an uptrend. It's probably paused, and now we're starting to see that engine starting to rev up again, right? So when we go to our chart, let's see what it's doing. Now, don't make me a liar, corn. And there it is. We can see that, here's our trend still in control, right? We've paused, right? It looks like we're about to shift gears. Now, could we go up and make a new high? Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility. Or what could also happen is that price could change, and a lot of these holds that we're seeing in our technical indicators could switch to sells, right? I don't see that happening right now. We probably need corn prices to fall, down below here or even down below there before we get a lot of those signals to switch from long or buys to sell. Okay. All right. So let me pause again to see if I can answer some questions, because I want to also show you some ways how we can apply this strength and direction signal in terms of looking for trading opportunities, okay? All right. So Theo Smith asks, can I use a screener to find stocks that are ready to take off? Yes, we're going to do that. I love when subscribers ask a question. I'm going to do that right next, Theo, okay? Ali's asking, is wondering what you would use for short-term indicators that give you the most amount of success. I think you need to be in tune with your markets. So for equities, you know, one of the ones that we really like is that 20-day moving average. That represents about a month's worth of price action. If I'm looking at futures, we have a 9-day, we have an 18-day, there's a 7-day. So futures, we're a little bit shorter term. You know, if you're going to look at very specific technical indicators, you know, I like looking at just some basic stuff. For instance, just like making new highs or new lows. Ratal, he says, when the direction is weakening, how do we know it is for an uptrend or is for a downtrend on a stronger stock? Okay. So again, we still need to do our homework. We still need to go to the charts. We still need to look at the technical indicator that we've picked out to see if we see a change in that momentum of that technical indicator. So we still need to do other aspects of our technical analysis or part of our due diligence. This signal is just another tool that we have in our toolbox to help us make that decision. Okay. All right. So let's go back to our main page, stocks. And one of the areas we do have here says trade signals. And down here we do see top signal strength and top signal direction. And if I pick on one of these, right, the top signal strength, what it's going to show me is it's going to show me all the stocks that are not only all the indicators are showing a buy signal, but in terms of that divergence, right, they're in the 1% of all of those indicators at the highest. And notice here you can see that here's our opinion, our previous, our last week's, last week, and you know they're all 100%, right? All these stocks are going to be ripping them down the road in terms of our trends at you know, a high pace, right, or a high angle of inclination, right? And, you know, they're all accelerating. Now I'm going to just kind of flip through a lot of these real quick as we go look through some of these. Now there's a lot of different stocks here. I think when I was looking at this morning, it was a couple hundred or so different stocks, but you can see they're all showing us the same thing. If I go back to my page and look at direction, that momentum signal. Whoop, let's go back here. I went back one too far. Whoop, okay, come on. Okay, now what's going to show us the top 1% of stocks who have very strong momentum in the last 3 days. Okay, so all of them 100%. Now, how many are there today? Well, let's find out. Let's see. Well, there was 154 total. So I think that question, I forget who that was who asked me that question. Let me just see if I can see that name. I think it was Theo. So Theo, what we can do here is, yeah, let's screen on this, right? Let's look at those engines that are revving, right? But are moving not at 100%, right? Not moving at the top 1%, but that are coming through, let's say, from first gear, second gear to third gear, right? So I'm going to screen on my momentum, my short-term momentum, my signal direction, and I'm going to add my bar chart opinion, right? My overall average, right? But now I'm going to do my strength, okay? I'm going to add that. Now, I don't want to see a stock that is already, a race car that's already on the racetrack. It's in the middle of the race and it's really going. And then that's not necessarily something that you can't do, right? You can certainly do that, right? But I want to find, like Theo says, I want to find the ones that are about to take off. So let's look at ones whose trends are just starting to get started, right? Or are moving from first gear to second gear, or second gear to third gear. So I'm going to look at soft, average, and good, and let's see what our results are. And now I only have 7 candidates to look at today, and all of these are going to show me not only that my momentum has picked up, but also what we're probably going to see here is that our trend is starting to pick up. All right, and so let's see what these look like. Yeah, so I mean, Theo, that looks like a stock that is about to break out. Now let's look at this in terms of maybe a bigger picture, right? Here we can see this stock has just recently broken out of a couple recent highs, and we're gaining momentum, right? And boy, if you look at this one, looks like there's a lot of room for this one to run, maybe as much as up to $17, or maybe as high as $20, right? Let's look at a couple other ones here. All right, again, another one that looks like it's getting ready to break out of a range, right? It's moving from first gear to second gear. Another one that looks like it's just breaking out of a range, right? So this is a cool little way how we can look for those stocks that are about to jump through all of those hoops, right? In other words, moving from first gear to second gear, breaking out of a range. Now, another way we can look at using strength and direction is as a secondary tool is, let me go back to our stocks, and we're talking about breakouts, right? And so what kind of breakouts could we talk about? We could talk about new highs, right? Now, I'm going to probably use a little bit of a shorter term. Notice our default comes up 52 weeks here, but I'm going to look at new highs, not 52-week highs, but I want to see stocks that are making new 1-month highs, right? I want to see if this trend is going to continue. And again, we can screen on that, right? But I'm going to switch it up a little bit because we have a lot of different opportunities to look at different types of strengths and direction indicators, right? First one I'm going to add is, instead of Barchart opinion, those overalls or all those 13s, I'm going to look at a very specific indicator, maybe one of the ones that I like. And one that I personally like is that 20-day moving average, right? And I want to see that 20-day moving average signal, not only a positive signal, right, if I was going to buy a stock, but I want to see that momentum, right? I want to see that direction, okay? So I'm going to add that, right? And again, I want to see that engine revving, so I'm going to look for strengthening or strongest. I want to see that engine revving. But then I'm going to come back into my screener and look at Barchart opinion, right? My trend, I'm going to look for that trend, right? Overall, again, my strength, my trend. And here, I'm just going to be very specific. I'm going to say, I want to find stocks whose momentum is increasing, where we just had a buy signal that is now really moving away from that 20-day moving average. But I want to find stock that is in second gear or third gear, right? And I'm just going to pick average. I don't know. You could pick whatever ones you want, but let's see what our results are. Okay. And boom, I've got 34 candidates to pick from in terms of looking at some opportunities. And there's a lot of mixed bag. I'm looking at a lot of different industries here. Now, one of the premier features that we do have in Barchart is under the flip charts here. One of the ways I can look, let's say I have 34 stocks and I want to get through these a lot quicker than going through each one individually. I can click on the multi-charts here and go for 4 And what this does is it shows me the next 4 symbols, and I can kind of really look at a lot of stocks in a very short period. I can pick, the next 4, right, and go through them. Here's an interesting one. Nice little bowl, right? Nice little bowl here, and looks like we've broken out. That would be definitely one that I'd be interested in. Let's go and pick the next 4, right? Okay, yeah, a lot of the stocks are looking very similar, where they've come from a low range of price and are now starting to move forward. Okay, so you can use this tool in a variety of different ways, right? You can screen on it. Let me go back to my euro dollar example, my currency example. Let's pull that up. Remember, we talked about using our main view to go down into our technical view, right, to find our strength. But you can also create your own filter, right? And one of the ones I have here is my Forex strength filter, right, in custom filters, where I can use a very specific signal. Here's my 20-day moving average strength, right, to tell me what my signal is. Here's my 20-day moving average direction, right? And then here's my momentum, right, my overall momentum. And I can use these together, right, and use them to say, hey, this particular stock or this particular security, or in this case, currency, I'll be looking for those right combinations. I want to see a revving market, an increasing or strengthening trend, and want to make sure that it's one of those indicators that I rely on. All right, so there's a lot of different ways we can use our strength and direction indicators. All right, so I see a lot of great questions, so let me take a moment here to start going through the questions.
Yeah, John,
Gina, go ahead.
While you read through those questions, let me kind of just address a few common ones that are coming in. A lot of people are sending in specific stocks saying, please look at this stock. Why is this showing 100% buy? I don't understand. The stock's not been doing that well. What I would tell you to do is go to the opinion page for that symbol, and every single one of those 13 technical indicators, if your stock is showing 100% buy, what you want to do is you want to look at each of those technical indicators. Every one of them is going to show a buy signal, and that's why you have 100% buy. So you really do need to have your opinion page open. Take a look at each of those indicators. There's a little chart link off to the left side for each indicator. Open that up. Take a look at why that technical is showing you that it's a buy. So that's what I would suggest there. That's to answer all of your questions. A lot of people asking us to look at specific symbols.
Okay, so Timothy asks, why does my strength and direction signal go from this gray screen or this black screen to blue? Great question, Timothy. So here's one of the stocks that has been definitely in the news, and you can see that our strength and direction is blue. What this tells us, Timothy, is that this particular security, the strength and direction signal is in that 1%, that top echelons, right? Our engine is revving at 5,000 RPMs, and we're in 5th gear. We're flying down the highway, right? And if we look at this stock in terms of our chart, right, we're going to see that this market has really, really taken off in the last few days. But overall, over the last, let's look over the last year. This thing went from $3 back in, I don't know, October or so, up to $71, right? So that is why those are all in blue. Now, one of the things that Gene's talks about, those technical indicators, those strategies, and I think it was someone was asking about checking. David was just asking about checking backdated history, right? So if you come over here where it says trading strategies, right? Or excuse me, top trade alerts, right? Now, it's easy for us to say, hey, this stock is already ripping along and we could jump on this, we could jump on this race car, or, the price has already moved away, right? A lot of you say, hey, that's easy for me to sit here to do that. But if I go to my top trade alerts, right, all these different indicators that are out there that we have, the 13 we have, notice that back on October of 27, 2020, we got one of those momentum changes where the 20-day moving average moved over the 50-day moving average, right? A change in our momentum. And that occurred on October 27th when the price of this stock was only $4. So understanding how these technical indicators work and using the tools that we have in here in Barchart that will help you to find these trades. This was a top stock pick on October 27th, right? So you could go into top stock picks, look at those signals, those revving engines, that momentum shifts, those shifts in gears, and give yourself an opportunity to jump on one of these race cars as it's pulling out of the so-called, the pit stop. All right. How are we doing on time, Gene?
So we've got about 15 minutes left.
Okay, let's see if we can answer a couple more questions. Can you look at, Chris Welch asked, can you look at possible shorting examples? Yeah, Chris, there's a lot of shorting examples. Now, one of the markets that's a lot easier to short is futures markets, right? And one of the big shorts that has been playing out in recent weeks and months is, this story of, stimulus and the reinflation and rising interest rates. And right here's our bar chart signal is a sell signal. It's a shorting opportunity, right? And if I go to my opinions, right, again, right, we don't always have to look for positives or greens. We can look at reds or negatives in terms of shorting opportunities, and you can see that all these technical indicators are showing selling opportunities. If I look at my chart, right, you're going to see this trend has not only continued to go down, but you can see that in recent days, right, last 3 days, a nice momentum here. So we've probably shifted gears. We're moving to the next gear, right? Probably going to look for a retracement on this one to get back into the short. But, in terms of momentum, this is definitely one of those stocks that, or excuse me, a security that is a downtrending short opportunity. Okay. I think Chris is probably upset. He probably wanted me to find a shorting opportunity in some stocks. Okay, Gerald asks, how can these indicators be used to set stop or stop loss? All right. So, Gerald, I think what you would want to do would be use your directional signal, your momentum signal, whatever technical analysis you're going to use, or let's say a high or a low, a previous high or low, and wait for that momentum shift. In other words, you have a change in momentum, and if price got below that technical indicator, or your momentum went from, let's say, strong to weakening, right, or moved in the opposite direction, maybe went strong the other way, then when you broke through that level, that would be how I would use the directional signal to help me set a more tighter stop. Now, again, you could use the signal direction trend, but those are a little bit lagging, right? And if you have room, or you feel that you could take on more risk in terms of a price adjustment, then that might be a way to do it as well. So I see Pasma is asking me, everyone uses different technical signals. What do you recommend apart from the recent lows, 918 averages, and signal strengths? So we do have other webinars. For instance, for futures, I talk about different technical indicators that I personally use. It's kind of great question because next week when we look at our upcoming segment, we're going to look at trading futures again, and we're going to talk about trading futures with smaller accounts. But I think things like average true range and Bollinger Bands, those two are two indicators that I use that I like to help me define. And we do have some webinars in there that talks about using different types of indicators for risk management and trading. Okay. All right. So George asks, how does this work for broader indexes? George, it's the same thing. It doesn't matter if we're looking at a stock or a currency or a future or an index. The indicators are still based on these different variables, right? Hang on, let me just change this. Right, our bar chart. Oops, hang on. Our bar chart. This is left over. This blue line, Japanese yen, is left over from our Forex webinar a couple weeks ago. Our bar chart opinion is still the same. It still runs the same data points, right? Again, so here we see the S&P index is telling us current strength is right at maximum. What's that telling us? Well, it tells us this trend is in control. There's more likely that price is going to move in this direction, continue in this direction. But what is our current direction? Our current direction is average, right? Our buy signal or our overall signal has been 100% for the last month, last week, yesterday. But today, our current direction is average. So what is happening? Well, maybe what we're seeing is that we could be seeing a change in our trend, right? Or a slowing down as we're ready to shift to another gear. So let me go to the interactive chart, right? S&P, right? There's 6 months. Let's look at a year, maybe a little bit, right? Nice steady trend, right? Nice steady trend. But what has happened in the short term, right? Momentum is starting to turn a little bit, right? So, we've shifted gears, right? We gained momentum, we shifted gears, and now we're at the high end of that gear. Now we need to get a change in momentum, right? We want to see this rev back up so we can shift another gear, so we can take it another leg higher, or we wait for it to pull back and correct. One of the technical indicators, you asked me different technical indicators I like this 20-day 100-day moving average, right? And I like to wait for when price comes back and re-engages the 20-day moving average somewhere in between the 20-day moving average and the 100-day moving average. And you can see every time prices come back to that 20-day moving average and stayed above the 100-day moving average, once it got back above the 20-day average, once the momentum becomes positive, once the engine starts revving forward, then that would be a buy signal for me, okay? All right. So I see a question here about options. Great question. Yeah, for sure, right? If you didn't want to invest in a stock, or maybe the stock was too expensive, right? These shift in momentums or these signals would allow you to use options strategies, a bull call spread or a downtrend, a bear put spread. And again, you could look at credit or debit spreads. So yeah, great question. Yeah, you can definitely use these in concert with options strategies. And matter of fact, I would encourage for my options traders who are out here is to use your strength and directional signals to help you find, when momentum starts to pick up, what is also happening is your volatility is picking up, right? And an increased volatility could mean richer premiums, which if you were looking at credit spreads, right? Or as you're breaking out, as you're shifting gears from first gear, second gear, third gear, as you're moving through segments where you've gone from a sideways action to a positive uptrend or a negative downtrend, that would be a way to start doing those debit spreads where you're looking for, profit targets, the next resistance or the next support level. So great question there. Okay, so I see we're pretty close to the top of the hour. Any other questions, Jean, that you see?
No, just that a lot of people are asking, is there a recording of the presentation? And yes, you're all going to get an email a little bit later on today with a link to the recording. John, you want to show us the webinar page where people can also go and find these archived webinar recordings? And let's talk about next week.
Yeah, so I kind of hinted, next week we're going to look at, and this is a kind of a passion project of mine, being, from the futures world. A lot of folks feel like, they don't want to trade futures, or they, for multiple reasons. But one of the main reasons I hear from people who trade futures, I hear you need a lot of money to trade futures. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you can trade futures on a limited amount of capital. And not only a limited amount of capital, I'm going to show you ways how to look at different futures markets to figure out which ones are giving you the best value for the capital that you're going to invest, right? Right now, when somebody says, I'm a futures trader, and I ask them, well, what futures markets are you trading? A lot of them will say, I trade the indexes. And I'm like, no, you're an index trader. You're not a futures trader. And so what I want to show you is there's a lot of other futures markets out there besides the S&P or the Qs or the Dow index futures, where you can get some really good value in terms of your capital. And also, there's this discussion of the super cycle of commodities. There's a lot of these commodities that have been moving in up directions. And so I'm going to give you a little teaser here. I saw that Goldman Sachs put out a report that said something to the fact that, except for cocoa, all commodities right now are in what we call a deficit supply and demand. In other words, that the demand for these commodities is outpacing the production or supply. And that is a bullish trend for all commodities. Not saying that they're all going to go up, but I'm just saying that this is what this super cycle that we're going to talk about. And there are some of these futures contracts that we can trade at a very limited amount of capital. Matter of fact, almost 10 times the amount less than what we'd have to put up to trade, let's say, one S&P contract. Okay. Until next week, I want to wish everybody the best of health and stay safe and the good of all trading.
Thank you, everybody, and wishing you well. Hope to see you next week, and thank you for using Barchart.